Hey, greetings, and I am James Arnsberger, your host for Sunday Rants. We are May 30th, Memorial Day weekend. Hope everybody is having a great time. And we are going to go over just a couple of new items that we posted up on the website. Go right here and log over to sundayrants.com and check out some of our new information. Let's dig in. I posted an article that was a article written about a week or so ago by the Indy Star reporter Alexandria Burris. You can reach her at aburris@gannett.com, GANNETT.com, or give her a call at 317-617-2690. She did a great article. And this article involved a real estate appraisal for a Carlette Duffy. And just to go over the highlights of the article, the subject of the article, black homeowner had a white friend stand in for a third appraisal, and the home value doubled. Again, the reporter was Alexandria Burris from the Indianapolis Star. Carla Duffy was the lady that had this unfortunate, just outrageous result. Basically, she had two appraisals that were done, and things were they just didn't seem right. There were a lot of red flags that popped up for her. She got appraisals of $125,000 and $110,000 respectively. And she was working with Citywide Home Loans and a Tim Boston and Jeffrey Pierce, apparently, on the two first appraisals, and then a Craig Hodges with Freedom Mortgage. But when she got the third appraisal, she went to, according to the story, she went to get that one, and Duffy, who's an African-American, communicated with the appraiser strictly via email and stripped her home of any signs of her racial or cultural identity, and had the white husband of a friend stand in for her during the third appraiser's visit. The home's new value increased to $259,000. So now, obviously, there's a complaint with the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana. And there should be a lot of concern. This is not a new problem, as we know, and we see a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, continuing. Andrew Perry, who's a senior fellow for the Brookings Metropolitan Policy Program, he studies housing discrimination, and said that anecdotal evidence of housing discrimination can be found around the country. You can see it in Florida, Texas, here in California, here in San Diego, and I'll talk about that in a moment. It's almost when people see black neighborhoods that they see twice as much crime than there actually is. They see worse education than there actually is. And Perry says that I think this is what's happening when appraisers, lenders, real estate agents see blackness. They devalue the asset, and then they devalue the property. So on the complaints, Duffy and the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana filed complaints with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Hopefully they're going to be reaching out to the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. I know we're going to put a package together and send that to Washington, D.C., and ask them to look into this. Respondents in the complaints included the Indianapolis-based appraiser Tim Boston, appraiser Jeffrey Pierce of Citywide Home Loans, employee Craig Hodges, lender Freedom Mortgage, and two of the company's employees. The complaint alleged that they violated the fair housing laws by allowing race and color to impact the appraisals of their home and their lending practices. There's also this anecdotal evidence that if you don't specify your race on a loan application, as compared to stating African American or Black. The interest rate that's quoted is generally less than if you were to state African American, Black, or Hispanic. The appraisers, the complaint said, purposely pulled comps that were unfair and racially motivated. Appraiser Tim Boston denied the allegations, stating that my appraisal reports are data driven. I could care less about cultural or sexual orientation. Well, now I don't think anybody raised that issue, but it's a good point. He said it's all about bricks and sticks and dirt, whatever that means. The remaining respondents could not be reached by the Indy Star. Let's scroll down the article. Again, it's posted up on our website, and I want to talk about a little bit about the ramifications of the study. Brewdog investigating firings at Indianapolis location after discrimination claims they controlled for crime, walkability, and other factors that could affect home prices. After those factors were controlled for, the homes in the Black neighborhoods were underpriced by 23%, or about $48,000 per home. Cumulatively, there was a loss of $160 billion in lost equity. Perry's research preceded the crafting of the Real Estate Valuation Fairness and Improvement Act of 2021, which was introduced this year, April, in the U.S. House of Representatives. So we're going to be following up on that bill and see where our Congress people stand on that bill also. The bill addresses racial disparities in residential and commercial real estate appraisals. I got to tell you, it's also probably something that we're going to find that is true in the same pattern, systemic racial disparities in valuation on business appraisals and business valuations. Systemic problems are the price comparison model. Perry stated that when you only compare homes to like peers in neighborhoods that have been discriminated against, you essentially are just recycling the discrimination over and over again. And then you have individual acts of racism that you have a more systemic reason why. Both are robbing people of individual and community wealth. When we're talking about wealth by design and building wealth, this is an unacceptable and outrageous level of problem that it goes beyond all the other issues that we're addressing with police violence, police oversight, the entire justice system, wrongful convictions, and this thing in back in the old days, it's not that much different. It's the same modern day version of redlining neighborhoods, and all of us have a duty to speak out and say something and do something more about this. We know that there have been concerns of that here in California, here in San Diego especially. So we're going to be reaching out to a number of organizations. We just recently sent the National Association of Realtors, the NAR, who's holding a big annual conference here in San Diego later this year. We sent them information about this article and asked for their comments. And we also asked if any of these organizations or individuals, Mr. Boston, Jeffrey Pierce, Citywide Home Loans, Craig Hodges from Freedom Mortgage, if any of those people are members of the National Association of Realtors. Generally, you have to have an appraisal license, a lending license, or a real estate license. And so we reached out to the NAR and asked for their comments. We also asked the NAR in our request for comment, we asked them if they were going to be including in their annual conference here in San Diego later this year information about these kinds of practices and what their position is, and what they will be doing to the national organization and the members of the national organization for real estate professionals to make sure that we're doing more at the organization level in these organizations. We will also be reaching out to the California Association of Realtors and the San Diego County Association of Realtors, as well as the Apartment Association, because housing discrimination of any kind is unacceptable and has to stop. And we all, again, have a duty to say something and do something more than just read an article. This is a very well-written article by Alexandria Burris at the Indy Star. And again, you can go to the website. At the bottom of the article is her contact information. Let her know that you read it. Send her an email. Tell her great job. And we'll be following up with the National Association of Realtors. They did respond via email. I sent them an email at NAR member support at incontactemail.com, and they responded pretty quickly. Kudos to that, and indicated that they would be having somebody get back to me. And then I followed up with a follow-up and more detailed email, specifically asking if any of these organizations or individuals are members of the NAR, and if they are, what are the plans of the NAR to do anything about the membership standing if these allegations prove to be true. We want to follow up, try to reach Carlette Duffy and get some information from her, maybe do an interview. And also what we want to do is follow up on the complaint and make sure that the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. Is alerted, and see if the Civil Rights Division, along with HUD, might want to take a look at this, because it is a big problem, and we all know that. And we all have a duty, again, to do more and say more and get more involved to end this despicable practice. So that being said, go up to the website again right there, and there's my finger pointing right there, and check out some of the new articles. I want to move next to just some recent updates that we posted. I've been talking a lot about here in San Diego, the police department, city of San Diego. Last couple of weeks ago, again, we had another case of two cops beating a homeless black man. It seems like we've got a pattern again, or still. And it seems like not just the city of San Diego, but most all of the cops in all of the jurisdictions in San Diego County, California, probably throughout the entire nation. This stuff, there doesn't a day go by that I don't get reports on police abuse, police misconduct, excessive use of force. How we do policing has got to change. And it's got to change all the way from the street cop to the jury room, in the courts, the exonerations. We had another couple of brothers that were wrongfully convicted. That's a new article that we just posted. They were awarded more than $80 million in a lawsuit against Robeson County, former sheriff, and the State Bureau of Investigation. 80 million. Yeah. And they spent a long time in prison, wrongfully convicted. It's just despicable, the stuff that goes on. And we're going to continue to bring this stuff to light, expand the conversation, expand the participants in the conversation, and start letting people know that this problem is an epidemic. It's not isolated. These are far from isolated. These cases of police abuse, particularly here in San Diego and everywhere else, have got to stop. We also reported on an article that is posted on the website. Materials that were given to San Diego Police Department recruits included training material on the banned carotid restraint technique. That's where the cops grab you and choke off your carotid artery and you pass out. Very damaging, lethal, is resulted in death. And again, our elected officials and our police officials and our district attorney and our city attorney in San Diego, blah, 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 a lot of lip service about how reforms were going to be coming. And here we are, a year later, and new recruits for the San Diego Police Department are being given training material that includes the carotid restraint technique. What happened to the reforms that all of this was going to be stopped? These techniques were no longer going to be used. If they're no longer going to be used, why is the material still being included for police officer recruits? This is why we don't believe that the elected officials, the city officials, and the city attorney, and the district attorney, and the police chief, and all the other lip service minions are serious about reform, because there's no follow-up, there's no oversight. Who's reporting weekly and monthly and quarterly to make sure that these things that you're talking about, reforms, are being implemented, and this stuff is not being handed out to new police recruits? Nobody, because apparently nobody vetted that, and it's being handed out still. Cops got to do a better job, and I'm going to tell you, people have lost respect for police, and duly deserved, because how we are policing is despicable. When we have cops that are planting evidence, cops that are lying on reports, falsely arresting people, beating homeless people up, beating anybody up, and we got it on video. Again, you got to just ask the question, at what point do we start holding the people that are upholding and enforcing the law to a higher standard? How do these people seep through? This is like the bottom of the barrel, and we give them a badge and a gun, and then we turn them loose on the citizenry. All these organizations holding conventions and annual events in San Diego at the convention center should just boycott San Diego. I've called on a number of organizations, have got no comment back, and we'll start listening to them here pretty quick. We're going to give them ample time to respond to our request for comment and interview. And then if they don't, we're going to let you know who they are and how to contact them, because we've got to be a voice that says enough. We're not going to tolerate any of this anymore, and we're not going to support any organization that doesn't say something to do more to end all of this bullshit that keeps going on. It's got to stop, and we've got to have a lot more active involvement, all of us, if we expect. We can't count on these politicians and these elected officials and these city officials, because, again, I've been in San Diego for 6 decades, and it's worse now than it's ever been. And about every 7 or 8 years, we hear the same lip service from the same kind of politicians and city officials about new reforms, this, that, and the other, and nothing changes. In fact, it's worse. They're not serious because we have a system that refuses to be reformed, and that's the bottom line. And so we've got to stay more, we've got to do more, and we've got to be more involved, and we've got to take the time and understand that these things are going on, and it's an epidemic. It's not isolated. Just read some of the cases that we've got. I mean, we don't even have enough room to put all of the articles. We're picking highlights of some of the more egregious cases. But you can certainly go on the internet and find thousands of cases where this is going on every day. There's not a day goes by that I don't get 2 or 3 articles about police abuse, misconduct, planting evidence, exonerations of wrongfully convicted people. Most of them, as you saw in that one report up on our website, 2/3 of the victims that were wrongfully convicted were African-American blacks that did nothing wrong, and on average spent almost 10 years in prison. I don't know. At some point, we've got to ask different questions, because the questions that we're asking apparently are not getting anybody's attention, because they don't do anything. They give us a bunch of speeches and grab their 2 or 3 minutes in front of the camera to get their quotes in for reelection. But we certainly don't believe that they're serious about any reform, or they would be doing something different. And we've called on the district attorney and the city attorney in San Diego and a number of other elected officials. We've given them a list of things that should be added to the reform list. And again, we've heard no comment. And that's likely what we're going to hear a lot of, no comment, because they're not really serious. Again, this is why we're supporting in the throes of putting the organization together. We filed all of our paperwork. We should have our nonprofit for CalFIJA, the California Fully Informed Jury Association, and we're going to go on a campaign educating the citizenry about the power of the jury in nullification, in refusing to uphold and convict defendants in a lot of these cases where we just absolutely can't trust the cops, the investigators, the prosecutors, their malfeasance, misconduct, suborning perjury, concealing evidence. The whole system refuses to be reformed. So I don't know about how you go about reforming a system that refuses to be reformed. Anyway, we're going to follow this Carlette Duffy story. We've reached out to Alexandria Burris. Hopefully I'll get in touch with her next week and do a follow-up. We want to interview some of these folks, and we definitely want to get some comment from the National Association of Realtors, the California Association of Realtors, the San Diego County Association of Realtors, and the San Diego County Apartment Association. Racism in housing and rental property and the sale and valuation of property and valuation of business is an epidemic, and on average is costing Black homeowners $48,000 in stolen equity for these practices. We can't build wealth if we've got people that are that have racial animus and bias and engage in racial discrimination in these practices. More needs to be done, and people need to be held accountable, and people need to lose their license. And if they violated the law or engage in some criminal act, then they need to be charged with those crimes, and quit charging the people that did nothing wrong. Maybe we ought to change the focus of the targets of prosecution. That's part of the reforms that we're calling for. Independent investigation of the district attorney and the city attorney would be a good thing. A standing grand jury to oversight, and maybe something the equivalent of an independent counsel, because we can't trust you to investigate your own. That's just not the way it works, and that's not the way it should work. Anyway, my name is James Harnsberger. This is Sunday Rants. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, what's left of it. And we will be following up on this news article and keeping you up to date on our progress and what we find out. All right, everybody, take care. We'll talk to you next week.